Engagement with the real world is just a true problem for the addiction part. Kids are feeling very jealous and competitive of their parents and their devices, and I see this all the time. I always do a little test. Try it next time you go. Walk into a restaurant and look at all the tables of families, and you will find that probably 9 out of 10 of the tables, the parents are on their cell phones. And the kids they're either all on their cell phones. I love these commercials. They're so funny where, the girl and the guy are sitting across from each other and she's breaking up with them on her phone, because that's all they do is they use their phone. But, we really, as families, need to set those devices down and have family time together where you're not using them. Even, just in my family, we've kind of started a new thing. And it's been nice. I think it's been stressful for certain members, especially the one I'm married to. But when we watch a movie together, everybody puts their cell phone in the kitchen, because I found that even when we're watching a movie together, everybody's doing their thing on their cell phone. And so, we're missing so much. Just even driving in the car somewhere on vacation, everybody's on their phone. You're not seeing anything that's out there. Because I am local, I do a lot of running around Rancho, Santa Margarita Lake, because it's a nice little running path around there. And I watch moms with their babies, and they're out for a stroll with their baby, but they're on their cell phone. And so, kids are learning that they're competing for their parents' time, because as adults, we can't get away from our devices. So again, how do we expect our kids to have appropriate boundaries when we can't control that ourselves? Most adults, when they're doing that, it's a business. I've got to work. We're in a society where we work from the minute we get out of bed until the minute because we have these devices. A while back, I worked for this very large corporation, and it was an offshoring type company, and I had employees in India, and I would wake up at 4 in the morning to start my day, and before I even got out of bed, I had to look at my BlackBerry because I knew I had messages coming in, and then I'd get ready for work, and then it just went on. And then my people that were here in the US were working late at night, and so I found that I was permanently attached to this BlackBerry that was running my life, sometimes 200 or 300 emails. And when you've got parents that are in high stress jobs like that, they feel like they can't get away from that, but it's really, it is a disruption to the family. And so we want to, as families, and when we're talking with parents, and if you're doing a parent night would be just really great to help kind of get this information across, because the more you can help your parents and the more we can help the kids, the better learners you're going to have. The kids are going to be happier at home, and so that's becoming a huge problem. Setting limits. We really need to set limits, but we have to include the cell phone in screen. Some parents call it screen time. That includes computer, television, whatever. You've got to include the cell phone, because you got to remember that, the kids have access to that as well. My cousin has 4 kids, 4 teenagers. I pray for her every day, and she has one particular child that is, always in trouble, and so she had her computer taken away from her, and she wasn't allowed to watch any movies or go online or do anything like that. And so they caught her later watching a movie on her cell phone, because they hadn't distinguished that counted for everything. So, when we're setting our limits, we have to remember to include the cell phone and have some time where they're not on any of those devices, and that they are being creative and doing things outdoors, or, creative things in the home that don't have to do with technology. Again, I already talked a little bit about this, shutting down all the devices during homework time. They may need to use their computer, but that doesn't mean that they have their Facebook down below, so they can pop it up and chat on that every now and then. Have everything down except for what they're actually using to do their homework. Be aware. The studies show that the more a person is online, the more depressed they become. So if you've got a depressed kid that is just online all the time, that's not helping the situation, that is going to deepen their depression. Making a central place for cell phones at night. I just talked to a lady, raise your hand, where are you, about the cell phones? They're back there. Okay, so I always talk about this just as far as kids being tired and stuff, but I'm getting reports from teachers all over the nation that kids are exhausted in school because they're sleeping with their cell phone on vibrate underneath their pillow, and they're texting or playing words with friends, or watching movies or doing whatever they're doing, they're on those phones all night long, and they're staying up really late. And if they've got other friends that are staying up late, again, they've got it on vibrate, they're sleeping with this under their pillow. And so it is causing a lot of dysfunction in school because they're so exhausted from not getting enough sleep. But we also talked a little bit about, there are some studies about the danger to the brain of having that cell phone so close to your head. So, that's something I don't know a lot about. I've heard a little bit about it, but it was a really good point. But we want to encourage parents to not just tell your kids to turn the cell phone off, because that could mean 100 things. And, you just want to collect those cell phones. They go in a central place. And then they get redistributed in the morning. That ensures that your child is not texting and staying up all night long. Also, if you're concerned about who they're talking with, you get to see those messages that came in the middle of the night. I have parents ask me a lot when I do parent presentations, is it okay for them to go through their child's cell phone and, the privacy and that sort of thing. And, for me, for my kids, until they were paying their own cell phone bill, it's my cell phone, and I'm paying the bill, and if I think something inappropriate is going on or something that's not good for them, I believe I have every right, and if not every right, I think it's my duty as a parent to know what's going on with my child. And so I don't want to say confiscating, but putting those phones in a central place at night is just really one of the best things we can do for our kids. So that I'll talk a little bit about that whole privacy issue too, again, about Facebook when we get there. But if you just ask the kids to turn them off, kids, again, we love them and we want to think they do everything they tell us, but it's like an addiction. It's hard to, even for us as adults, to shut it down. If we have trouble with that, we know that our kids are going to be having trouble with that. I talked a little bit about or a lot, I don't know, I must be doing this a lot lately, but the whole Words with Friends thing. My husband and I will sit in bed at night and stay up way past a normal time because we're finishing a game of Words with Friends next to each other with our phones, doing words back and forth. And so, we're grown people, and I knew I had a big presentation this morning, but did I go to bed at 9 o'clock like I said I was going to? I did, but I played Words with Friends till like 10:30. So, I'm a grown-up. I know better. So we've got to help our kids with that, and we have to help them by collecting those phones. Okay, so just the facts with social media. Kids 53% admit to sending hurtful messages. 33% of teens, and the stats are always all over. Stats are stats. They're all over the place. They change. We collect stats, and by the time we get them, they're already old. So, but a lot of kids, the stats seem to say about a third of our kids have been victims of cyberbullying. 20% of kids say that they have sent or posted nude or semi-nude pictures of themselves, okay? Not of somebody else, of themselves. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Almost 40% of teens have sent out something that is sexually suggestive. And of course, 51% of teen girls say that it's pressure from a guy that causes them to do this. So in our cell phone game, It's Your Call, it talks about the girl runs into a situation where a really popular boy at school is asking her to send him some photos, and she's really wondering, whether she should or not. And so, of course, in their choices, she gets to pick all the different things. But again, just saving those photos in your phone, in one scene in that game, she doesn't send the photos herself, but her best friend, as a joke, finds her phone and sends her picture to the guy, who then sends it to all the guys in the locker room, and pretty soon she's being ostracized at school. It's just an amazing thing to me that kids are so into sending, the sexting, sending naked pictures of themselves out there. But once they do it and it goes viral, then all of a sudden everybody's making fun of them. And so, they get humiliated and they're embarrassed. And, girls usually think that they're going to send that picture to this one special guy who would never, usually especially if they're older teen girls, it's the guy they're going to marry. But, they really don't think that the guy would do that and send it out there, and then it gets out there. And again, even if that kid's got the picture in his phone, maybe his friend picks up the phone. And so kids don't think through how this information can get out there. So we really need to encourage them not to engage in that kind of behavior at all. The other thing is the child pornography issue. They are underage. So even if a child takes a picture of themselves and they keep that picture in their phone, they're possessing child pornography. Should they choose to send it out there in the world, they're now distributing child pornography. There are kids across the nation that have been made to register as sex offenders because they're sending out pictures of themselves or other people. They're not understanding the legal consequences, and not only the legal, but just the damage that they're doing to themselves by getting this information out there. The other thing that I think girls especially, and guys, it's not just a girl thing, but when these photos are taken and they're posted somewhere on Facebook, even for a short period of time, or they send it out by however, if they post it to a website or wherever these pictures are going, there are people out there, predators, who will pick up these photos, and the child doesn't even know it, and then they're now sending those photos to different websites around the world. And there are a lot of countries where child porn may not even be illegal, and their picture can wind up going all the way around the world. I did a presentation a while back for the U.S. Attorney in New Jersey, and they told a story about a girl that they had in court. She was prosecuting this, she wasn't, her parents were prosecuting a man that had talked her into sending a whole bunch of sexually explicit photos to him, and he was using those to post on child porn websites. And so through the U.S. Attorney's Office, because of the geocoding, and I don't know exactly how this worked, but they were able to track where her picture went. And so the parents had the option of opting into a program where they would be notified every time that picture popped up somewhere in the world, and they would notify them by mail. And I think she said something like 2 weeks and 3,000 letters later, the parents opted out of the program because they couldn't take it anymore. That girl's picture had literally gone around the world. And so our kids are not realizing that when they post that stuff, it's not, and they delete it, from their stuff, from their view, it can go all over the place. So it's really important that they understand the seriousness of where their photos can go, and the kind of information they want to have out there in the world about them. Grown-ups can be mean, and grown-ups can say things that are inappropriate, in those forums. And so we want to make sure that, we're doing the right thing, that, as parents and as educators, that we're not involved in anything that would be inappropriate online, and helping our kids to understand that, these things can be positive tools for them to grow their future. We grow businesses, we do things for college, we have study groups, there are all sorts of great things that can go on in the social network, but we have to help them understand that we've got to keep that positive, and our future does depend on the things that we do today. So we want to, again, remind them that everything they post is permanent. I don't know how to get it through to these kids, but when they post something and they delete it, it is still there. So that's one thing that we want to make sure they know, that they really can't get rid of it. Now, we talked about, again, with another teacher here, that kids, especially your high schoolers, all upper levels, are not worried about what they're doing on Facebook because they think their privacy settings are so locked down that nobody can find their stuff. And there are people out there that can find the stuff that they're doing on Facebook. So we'll talk about that. We want to review the child's privacy settings. These aren't all the things that are important, but there are whole guides on how to do your settings. The only problem with that is Facebook seems to change those settings. Every time you get them locked down, they change it. So we want to be going in and rechecking those settings like every month. I had a situation myself where all my photo albums were set to friends only, and Facebook didn't update, and I didn't know it, but sometimes when they do those updates, they unlock all your settings. And so I still had everything to friends only, but I got a message from a guy I went to the prom with when I was a sophomore in high school. It was a little scary. And he said, he invited me to be his friend, and then he sent me a message, and he said, I really enjoyed looking through your photo albums. And he said, and by the way, he said, did you know there's a way you can lock that down so not just anybody can see it? And I'm thinking, I do this for a living. For goodness sakes, how'd that happen? And I went back, and sure enough, all those settings had been undone. So I go in and I check to make sure that I'm, all the different. So when they do updates, you want to go back in and make sure that you're still locked down. But we want to make sure that our kids are using the friends only, not, you know, friends of friends, not everyone, friends only. Don't allow themselves to be tagged in photos, because while they may not be uploading photos, you never know what kind of photos somebody else has taken and may upload. It could even be something as innocent as, you know, kids at a slumber party and they get some, you know, bizarre picture and someone decides to upload it and tag it. You can make it so that you have to approve any photos that you're tagged in. I always recommend that. We talked about the location finder, to turn that off. Kids should not be checking themselves. You know, Facebook has this new places thing, you know, they're checking in where they are. It's just not a good idea for kids to be telling the world where they are. They've got their photo and, you know, all their personal information out there. And don't allow the public search. There's a mechanism in Facebook that allows people to search for you publicly through the internet. If you don't disable that, even if all your privacy settings are locked down, if you put in someone's name, some of their comments and information from Facebook will pop up right on the internet. My stepdaughter had all her Facebook, I'm not her friend on Facebook, but her dad is. She had all her things locked down, and I, you know, kept asking them, are you sure you got it all? Are you sure you got it all? Yeah, we did. So the next day I went to work and I Googled her name, and sure enough, every club she had joined, all the different things that, you know, that allow in the public search. So when I went home, she'd joined some club. It's a 13-year-old.